So good afternoon. My name is Jill Riley James. I'm the social media manager at the National Archives, and I'm happy that you're all here today to join us for a demonstration of NARA's Citizen Archivist Dashboard. We have Meredith Stewart, who's been really involved in this project from its inception through to its launch in December, and some other tools have been continuing to be added into the dashboard, and we hope to continue development. It's been really exciting to see this project develop. It's really a key part of our social media strategy to have one place where citizen archivists and researchers can come to get involved in our different crowdsourcing projects and other initiatives. So again, I'm happy to introduce Meredith Stewart. She's a program management analyst with the Open Government team and works really closely with us on the social media team. So thanks very much, Meredith.
Good afternoon. I am going to do a live demo, and I'm going to try to make it as interactive as possible because there's just a few of us, and it could be really fun, the stuff that we're going to be doing. Just two notes. There is Wi-Fi available, and if you look for Social Media Week, you can access it. There's no login required, but you do need to accept the terms and click, I think it's submit. So if you want to use the Wi-Fi. And there's also a Social Media Week hashtag for it if you want to tweet, which is SMW Week. Okay, so at the National Archives, we're always trying to think of new ways to make our historical records more accessible. We have about 130 million records online, and that seems like a lot. But we have over 10 billion records 10 billion pages of paper records alone. So we have much more records than that, but just in terms of paper, we have about 10 billion in the holdings of the National Archives. So we know we've got to get creative. We've got to leverage technology in order to make records more accessible online where people want them. And in order to do this, we have taken a serious look at public participation and what it could mean for the National Archives. Public participation itself is an important element of the National Archives' work towards open government, and it's one of the reasons why we look to designing the Citizen Archivist Dashboard, because we really want to harness the input that the public can provide on our records. So we're going to start off with the dashboard, and it's been, the slides of the dashboard have been moving. Just really quickly, if you're on archives.gov, which is our website, you can easily find the Citizen Archivist Dashboard by going to Information for Citizen Archivists, which is on the bottom left-hand side, and that brings you to the Citizen Archivist Dashboard. We launched this at the end of December, right before Christmas, and we've designed it to based on the activity. So we have tagging, transcription, editing articles, upload and share, and enter a contest. And it runs, the slides run, but you can also select on the tabs, and you can see all of the different types of activities. You can also find an activity by site. So on the bottom, we've also organized it by different sites where we have these activities occurring. So the dashboard itself pulls together many of the initiatives that we're doing already on places like Flickr and Wikipedia and on archives.gov. We've designed it to be this portal for folks to come in, and it's your one-stop shop. But it's also been a catalyst for developing new ideas and new programs for public participation. One of those being the National Archives transcription pilot, which we recently launched at the end of January. So we've been able to pull together stuff and also launch new activities. Okay, so we're going to go right into tagging. And I'm going to go a little bit in depth with tagging just so you kind of get a sense of what we're doing, because if you want to stay around for the tagathon afterwards, all of this information will really help you. So we've developed tagging missions, and we've represented them here on the page with these really graphic pictures that represent each mission. And we've developed them in the catalog and on Flickr. So if you want to start tagging in the National Archives catalog, we have a Getting Started section. And what you're going to want to do is you're going to want to create a username and a password. And you need to do this before you can tag in our catalog. And it's very simple, and you'll get access immediately. I'm not going to create another username because I've done this during demos, and now I've racked up a bunch of usernames. And then you're going to need to log into the system. So I'm going to go ahead and log in. And then I'm going to go back to the dashboard. Oh, hopefully that will, yeah, that's stuck. Okay. So, and then what you can do is you can select a mission, and you can go through our records. And so we're going to start a mission. And the missions, basically we've designed it so it will take you right into the catalog where there's images, and you're right there, you can start tagging. But you can also do a keyword search, and you can search on any topic that's of interest to you. It doesn't have to be within a mission, and I'll show you how to do that in a minute. So when you bring up the item, and this is a very compelling item, it just so happens it's at the first of our list. It's kind of a very striking image. But you're going to see on the left-hand side, tags contributed by the public. And we've made it really clear that these are the tags that the public has contributed. And if you select Show More Details, you can see exactly who has added the tags. And I've actually added a lot of tags because this is the first one that comes up, and I've done a lot of demos, but most of the other records, it's not all my username. We've actually had the Archivist come in, and he's added a tag very recently. I discovered that this morning. And what you can do is you can see when they were added. You can also select on the tag, select the tag, and you're going to see all of the items in our catalog that have been tagged with that item. So what we're going to do is I'm going to go back to the results, and we're going to find one that we can tag. I want to go to the last page. Okay. All right. So does anyone in the audience have some tags for this? A good tag could be anything that is meaningful to you, something that's represented in the image. It could be, if it's a photo, it could be a photographic style. It could be, if it's a document, it could be what's written in the document, maybe a name or a theme represented. For this one, does anyone have any suggestions? You can just yell them out. Strong. Okay, so if you're going to add a tag, you type it in, add a tag, and you either hit return or you can select add. Hopefully this doesn't. And then you're going to want to wait for the dialog box to pop up before kind of submitting another one. You can also add multiple tags. So anyone else? Poster. Anyone else? Fist. Flag. Okay, so you can add in our system, you can add multiple tags, separating them by commas. It's kind of a faster way of tagging. I didn't realize this at first, and I've been tagging for a while, and when I discovered that, I was like, oh, I could have been adding 10 at a time instead of having, it does take a little bit, I've found, a little bit longer for the dialog box to pop up, but then you're submitting 3 at a time. If you submit a tag that's already in our system, it's actually going to show that that was already submitted. Let's see. Another thing for you to do, if you're in a tagging mission, you can, I'm actually at the last result, but you can move through the results by clicking previous results and next results. You can also do a keyword search, like I said. Does anyone have a favorite president or a topic they want me to search on? Truman. Okay, so if you search on Truman, and I want to demo this just to show you, if you want to do it yourself, what you want to do at this point, you've gotten search results, you want to select View All Online Holdings. And then you're going to see all of the great stuff that we have. And you can tag through this. You can actually tag video. It's a little bit more challenging. You want to start and stop the video because almost every scene you're going to see things that you want to tag. You can tag, records, electronic records, any description actually. But if you want to narrow it down, you can actually go on the left-hand side. This is kind of how you narrow down your search results. If you just want to do photographic and graphic materials, you can select that. And that's going to kind of weed out other stuff, and it gets you right to it. And then you just select, and then you can get tagging. So this is a picture of a lot of people, and it looks like a lot of the people are identified in the description, but there could be a photo that doesn't have has a lot of folks represented, but doesn't have that in the description. Or you could even start tagging this photo with things that are in the description, like Potsdam, President Truman, Winston Churchill, that kind of thing. So let me see if there's just, nope, I think I got all of it with tagging. Do we have any questions about tagging in our catalog? Yes.
So you don't mind that there's redundancy between it says Stalin in the description and you tag it with Stalin? I mean, is it like stored separately or you separate like search it?
You can, we don't mind. Sometimes it's helpful to kind of have it because the tags are all going to kind of link the other items. So the redundancy is actually kind of helpful. Sometimes it's helpful to put the things start tagging what you see in the description because it kind of, you become more familiar with what you're looking at by doing it. That's what I've found. So if you start like, oh, okay, and who's Charles Bolin? And then, if you're adding those, then maybe you go to Wikipedia and you look something up and you say, oh, this was a meeting about this topic, and then you add that topic. So I have found it helpful just for tagging. You can search just by tags. And the quick way to do that is tag : and type out the tag. But for those, if you don't remember that, and I often don't remember that, you can go to advanced search, and there's actually a field in here for user-contributed tags. So if I do Nixon, let's see what comes up. So we have 5 things that have been tagged with Nixon on it. So if we open this up, you can see this has been tagged with Nixon. It has had a lot of other tags. So more tags, the better. It increases the accessibility of our documents, and it really helps us, find things again, and helps the public find things again. Any other questions about tagging in our catalog? Okay, we are gonna then jump to, so the other thing we have is we've also shared photos on Flickr. So if you, we've shared thousands of photos on the Flickr Commons, which is where other cultural institutions have shared images. And the thing that you should know about the images that we share on the Flickr Commons is that they're all marked with no known copyright restrictions. So you can use those in other ways. And in order to tag on Flickr, so we have just selected 4 on our dashboard documentary cassettes that weren't very well tagged. There is an active community on Flickr, and they were tagging our photos way before we ever asked anyone to tag anything. So we've had tens of thousands of tags added. We've actually done some profiles of Flickr users who are particularly interested in sets of our photos. We have one gentleman who has tagged prolifically photos related to LaGuardia Airport, and he has tagged the airplanes and what he was seeing. We've had some folks do extra research, like if a newspaper was held up, they've tried to figure out what newspaper that was and what the exact date of the photo might have been. So it's been really interesting to see tagging on Flickr, and it has really inspired us to bring tagging into our own catalog. And one day we hope to bring the tags that have been contributed on Flickr back into our catalog to to enhance the accessibility of our records. So in order to tag on Flickr, what you're going to want to do is you're going to want to sign in. And I'm actually going to sign in as myself. So now you can all email me if you want. I don't check this address, so. You can also sign in with Facebook and Google now on Flickr. Okay, so if you want to add a tag, you go to the bottom right-hand corner and you click Add a Tag. And then this box pops up, and you can see the tags that have already been added. We have U.S. National Archives. We've added some to it, like DocUmerica and Environmental Protection Agency. And then others have been added, and if you hover, you can see who's added the tag. So does anyone have any for this one? We have U.S. National Archives, Environmental Protection Agency, DocUmerica, Signage, San Francisco, 1972, EPA, Litter is bad news, don't spread it around, Shasta Beverages, and Shasta. Anything else? There's some things in this photo that aren't tagged yet. Horses. Now, if you've added a tag in Flickr, you can actually delete it. So if you make a mistake, you can just click X and then add it again. If you want to add multiple spaces in Flickr, separate tags. So if you want to add multiple words as a string, you want to do quotes around the tags. Anyone else? Tag for this photo? Power lines.
Is there already billboard?
Nope. Billboard. Is billboard 2 L's? Billboard. All right, so if you want to tag in Flickr, we have several missions, like I said, on our dashboard. We have these 4 missions, but then we also, if you're just looking for our photos, you can click on our name, or it's flickr.com/US National Archives will take you there. And what you can see is what we've contributed, what we've shared on Flickr. And so the left-hand side is our stream. So that's kind of in order that we've put things up. That's how it appears. But then we have collections on the right-hand side, and then there's sets within those collections. So if you want to look at women's history, you can see the different sets that we have within women's history. So I selected notable women, and we have a bunch of photos. And these, you know, as you go on, and then you can kind of move forward right there. And so there's a lot of people represented in this photo, for instance. It would be great if, you know, someone knew, if someone was at this event, they could come in and they could tag names, places. All right, so that is tagging. Any questions about tagging in Flickr or the National Archives on Flickr? All right. Next, we're going to go to transcription. So, the reason why we do transcription is for the same reason why we would want the public to contribute to tagging, is that transcription really helps records be more accessible to the public. So not only is it going to help in searching for the records, but then it's also going to help when someone finds that record, instead of having to struggle with the handwritten document, they easily have it there to read and to make sense of the document. So we have 2 options available. One is the National Archives Transcription Pilot Project, which we launched ourselves at the end of January. And the other one is transcription on Wikisource. So I'm actually going to demo the Wikisource transcription first, and then I'm going to demo the National Archives Transcription Pilot. So on Wikisource, Wikisource is a sister project of Wikipedia. It's one of the many Wikimedia Foundation projects. Wikisource itself is for primary sources. So the transcription of primary sources and making those primary sources available. So the holdings of the National Archives, our records, really fit perfectly with Wikisource. We've got a lot of material, and the folks that work and do things on Wikipedia and Wikisource and the other projects, they're very active, and they're very, and you may have also be working there. We have a lot of Wikipedians who are very active and who are taking a look at this. We've launched this as part of the work that we've done this past year with our Wikipedian in residence, and we've launched quite a few projects that Wikipedians are working on. So we started off by sharing thousands of our images from our online catalog onto Wikimedia Commons. So just like we did on Flickr, we've shared our images, high-resolution images, on the Wikimedia Commons. And then those images become useful on all these other sites. So on Wikisource, what we've done is we've selected documents that need to be transcribed, and we've kind of pulled them forward here for folks to come in. So if you select one of these, you can actually see the transcription that's been done. We work to refresh this site. These documents get done very fast, so it's hard for us to kind of keep up and keep identifying documents that need to be transcribed, but we are working on some processes to do that. And what you're going to see when you click over into Wikisource is there's instructions at the top that help you through it. They do want you to create a login and sign in. And then what you can do is you can take a look at the document, and you can transcribe it. There's editing tools available. There's actually an OCR button that you can start with, if that makes sense. You can see the results before you. So this last document down here hasn't been done yet. And I was just playing with this before we started. So this document hasn't been started. So you can actually select OCR first, and then you can decide, is this worth cleaning up, or is it more work for me to clean up? Do I just want to delete this and start over again? So then I think I personally would delete it because it's a pretty straightforward document. It's talking about Mr. Yates and the government milch goats. I looked up milch goats, and I haven't been able to find anything on those, but I assume that they exist. And so then you can save it. And it goes back into Wikisource and just makes things more accessible. We're also linking these transcriptions that are done on Wikisource back into our catalog. So if you find something in our catalog, we're going to have the link there as an online resource, and you can go back out and you can see where the transcription lives on Wikisource. I think that's it for Wikisource, unless there's any questions about our transcription. We can do questions at the end. Okay. We're going to go to the National Archives Transcription Pilot Project. So what we've done is right here is kind of where you can start. You can also go directly to transcribe.archives.gov. And we've selected 300 documents ranging from Civil War, World War I, World War II. We've organized them in 3 different categories: beginner, intermediate, and advanced, based on the level of difficulty we feel like it might take someone to do it. We launched January 25th with about, the 300 documents represented a little over 1,000 pages. It was about 1,050. And within 2 weeks, actually within the first day, a lot was done. I would say more than half of it was moved over to completed. But within 2 weeks, everything had been moved over to partially transcribed or transcribed. So we're working right now on refreshing this. The public has been really, really interested in transcription. And the response has been really fantastic. So the Diary of Robert E. Perry, I'm going to select. So you can select a document from here. These are the featured documents, or you can also browse documents, which I will demo in a minute. So the Diary of Robert E. Perry, 105 pages. So this is the first page. To start off with, you can navigate up here This is an advanced document. The handwriting is a bit difficult, and there's a lot of pages, so that's why we've put it in the advanced category. If you want to find out more about the document, we have a link to the right-hand side that's going to take you right into our catalog, and you can see more information, what series. You can scroll down, and you can find out additional information about this item, including a little scope and content. So each one has that link. You can also, especially for this document, for something that's 105 pages, you can skip forward to the next untranscribed page. And so we thought that feature was really nice because you wouldn't want to look at 50 pages that someone's already worked on if you're looking for something to get started right away. We have a locking feature, and it's actually popped up for this page. This means someone else is looking at this page right now, and it's going to let that person edit, but it's not going to let us edit. We chose to do transcription at the page level instead of the document level. So each page someone can work on for two reasons. One, it allows multiple people to work on a document at the same time. And second, it also, by breaking it up, it makes it less disastrous if something were to be lost at the page. You've only lost a page. You haven't lost 100 pages of transcription. So that's what we've done. You can zoom in and out on the image with these right here on the bottom right-hand side with the pluses and minuses. I've also noticed that when I was testing the system, it helps to, zooming gets you something, but then also if you step back from the computer sometimes, you see things a little differently. It's kind of interesting. Sitting behind people who were transcribing, I saw things differently than when I was the person looking at the screen that close. So we have some things on the left-hand side. We're telling you that someone has actually marked this page as completed. So although someone else is looking at this page right now, the page has been marked as completed. And comments have been made on this page. So what we're asking you to do is if you want to put a comment, you can put it here. You can talk about difficulties with transcriptions. This person is talking about why was this one marked completed when it has multiple illegible notations. So what we're asking you to do is use the comments as you see fit. It is a pilot. We're learning. What do people want to use the comments for? What's helpful? There is no login with our system. We really designed it to be simple and easy to use. And we think that's one of the reasons why we've had so much success is that as soon as we sent a tweet or we posted it to Facebook, people could click and get started right away. You didn't have to, we didn't have multiple barriers to entry. It was really, really easy. It is really easy to participate. So let's see. So I showed comments. When you are working on it, I'll go to a page where it's not locked so you can see the transcription. Let's go to next untranscribed page. Okay, so page 77 is currently locked. Okay, we'll try again. Currently locked. Someone's really looking at this document right now. All right, I might have to go to another document. This person might have all of the pages open, and they might be referencing things within the document. All right, so if you're going to look for another document, you can go to Browse Documents at the top. We also have tips, frequently asked questions, and policy, which we ask that you take a look at. The tips are, guidelines, things that we're asking in the transcription. First is to save your work very frequently. Don't correct spelling mistakes, kind of be true to the document. So we don't want you, if someone misspells a name and you think it's supposed to be something else, keep it true to the document as it was written. Transcribe in a way that makes sense for the document. We purposefully chose in our transcription pilot to choose documents that were pretty straightforward. So left to right, up to down, mostly. Not documents with a ton of tables or complicated features. There are some complicated documents, but we primarily chose documents that were handwritten and straightforward. But depending on the document, you might need to start transcribing in a different way. What we're doing right now is taking a look at what people do and then figuring out what it is, what kind of guidelines do we really need to get the products that we want and to be able to put these into our catalog and to make it all, these records more accessible. So you can use the comments page to discuss the problems. We're asking folks to indicate if they can't make out a word to use illegible. And and when they want to make a notation, to use brackets, that's pretty standard in other things, and to indicate non-textual items like stamps and seals. There's some really interesting documents we've included that have those types of things. So we're going to browse documents. So you can select by difficulty, by year, but please note we have about 300 documents. So we don't have documents for every year. So there may be some years, you might want to leave this out, but if you do know you're looking for something 1864, you can go right to that year. And then transcription status. So we'll do something that is partially transcribed. And we can let's look at all right, so this is Moses Honer Certificate of Removal, and it's partially transcribed. So what you're going to see is you're going to see the work that folks have done, and you can check it, which we're encouraging folks to do. We'd love for you to check the work of previous people. One thing about our system, it's an iterative process. So you're saving over the work of other people, but we don't have previous changes like you would see on Wikisource or other wiki-type environments available to the users. We went with really, really easy, simple. Our inspiration for this was actually a project out of MIT called Transcribe Bentham, Doc Edgerton's notebooks, not Transcribe Bentham. Doc Edgerton's notebooks out of MIT was really, really simple. I encourage everyone to look at it. And it's a plain text box like we've done. We don't have editing tools. And it makes it super fast and easy to do it. You're losing some of the more details, the more complicated things that you would get from it, but we're kind of weighing, the public's use and how easy it would be to, with the benefit of adding things that would make it more difficult. So if you take a look at this and you want to give it a try and you see mistakes and you edit it and you think it's complete, then you can save it as complete. If this was already saved as complete and you're in there checking and you think this document actually needs more work, you can save it as incomplete. So there isn't, when you put it to complete, it's not stuck incomplete, it can be bumped out. That's how kind of we designed it for right now. And we're really experimenting. We're seeing what's it going to take for us to get to a point where we think that these records are ready and that they don't need any more eyes on them. And one way you can do that is really, really helpful is if you, in the search box, type the word illegible, because this is what we've asked folks to use when they can't make out a word. And what you can do is all of the pages that are going to come up have words that folks can't quite make out. And so this one is called Teachers' Rules. And what I like to do at this point is do like a Control F and then search. And what you're going to do is you're going to see there's 45 in your browser's find box. There's 45 illegibles. So this document obviously needs someone to really take a look at it. It has been marked completed because someone has interpreted completed as, I've done all I can do. But what we're encouraging people now to do is to go in and search for illegibles. Let's see if we have. Does anyone have any questions about the transcription tool? Anything that they want to see? Nope. Yes?
I'm just curious about the decision process to do your own thing as opposed to doing it in
Sure.
a third-party thing, and if you'd still do both, and when you would decide to use which
So we've kind of taken a multi-prong approach, and we're investigating and seeing, very much exploring. Does it make sense for us to do a site like this, where we have maybe more control over it, or does it make sense to maybe just look at something that's on another site? We very much wanted to try it ourselves, and I think by doing this pilot, we've learned a lot of things that we wouldn't have learned by just kind of going with another site. Workflow, kind of getting status of page at each page and how that rolls up to the document level. I don't think we would have ever really kind of delved that deeply unless we had struggled with our own pilot project. Going forward, we're going to see what makes sense for us, and I think we're still really keeping our options open, but exploring what's out there.
As a follow-up to that, organizationally,
Yes.
it sounds, you said a couple things to me that sound like this takes, care and feeding from your side, right? You got to keep feeding the documents, and somebody's got to look at the stuff and whatever. Who in the organization, like who's doing that, or who really, who cares about making this happen, or
So there's a lot of proponents within the National Archives. So at the very top, the Archivist of the United States is very interested in this, David Ferriero. He's very interested in the Citizen Archivist dashboard and about developing activities that the public can really participate and really contribute. So we definitely have there's a lot of interest. In terms of the work, that has primarily been done within our open government division and was led by myself. So some help from our web team, social media, our catalog team. We had just kind of had a bunch of different things to come together to make this happen. It hasn't taken very many people to get the site running. The site itself is a content management system based on Drupal. So it's a CMS on Drupal. So it's actually pretty easy to upload. We only use documents that are already digitally available and scanned and in our catalog. So that was kind of, when folks come up to me and say, I have these great records, they'd be great for transcription. I love it. I need you to get them into the catalog because, that's other steps along the process. So we're kind of picking what's already available. Another thing that was in our consideration was that some of the scans weren't, older scans aren't necessarily great for transcription. And so we had to take a look and see, is this something that people can actually do? And some of the advanced documents we've selected, the scans aren't that great, and that's why they're in the advanced category. But a lot of things that the scans were a bit older, they weren't at such a high resolution, we didn't include them. Any other questions? Okay, great questions. I think that's it for our transcription tool. I'm just going to go quickly through Okay, I'm going to go back to the dashboard, and I'm going to go quickly through edit articles and the last three. So we have several options for folks. We have one site which is specifically run by the social media team, and it's called Our Archives Wiki, and researchers and the public are encouraged to come here. You can upload your images of documents, you can write articles about those documents or about themes in our records, you can put research tips, and I can click so you can take a look at page. And so this is Our Archives. So it's like a wiki, and it's done on Wiki Spaces. The other options we have are on Wikipedia. So we have, really tapping into that Wikipedian community who are interested in our records and interested in getting NARA images throughout Wikipedia. We have several projects. One involving Ansel Adams photographs. So the first sets of high-resolution images we shared were Ansel Adams photographs during his work with the National Park Service. And this project itself encourages Wikipedians to include these images on articles that are related. So if there's, I think this is I'm not sure what that is. It might be like a glacier or something. You would go to that article for that, and you're going to see more National Archives photographs. The Ansel Adams photographs are actually being featured. Additionally, we have today's document challenge, which encourages folks to write new articles or expand existing articles related to the National Archives feature called Today's Document. It's been a longstanding feature on archives.gov, and it's now on Tumblr. And so we've actually had some folks write brand new articles, and they've been featured on Wikipedia, the homepage of Wikipedia. So that's what we have for editing articles, kind of expanding the body of knowledge about records related to the National Archives. The next is upload and share, and you can click on the left-hand side, you can click on the bottom, any page, and you can also go back to the main page, which is where the slides are, and then upload and share. So upload and share is particularly important for us when we think about researchers who are in our research rooms around the country every day. If you've ever been in a National Archives research room, what you discover is that people are very serious about it. And there's a lot of cameras and equipment and scanners and all kinds of things where they're capturing images of our records. And we've been approached by researchers in the past and currently who would like to share their images with us. They'd like to see them included in the catalog. We haven't been able to digitize it. Like I said, we have over 10 billion pages of paper, so we don't have percentage-wise that much of a proportion of it actually digitized. So we'd love to be able to feature it. We are exploring tools that would automate this, that could capture sophisticated metadata. That's what we're kind of still exploring that right now. That's what we'd love to move to, so we can grab it and pull it back into our catalog. For right now, what we've done is we've set up a Flickr group called the Citizen Archivist Flickr Group, and we've had quite a few folks. What we're asking is to put some basic information. So we're not being super strict with standards because we're not really accepting these back into our catalog. We're just grouping them and making them available to the public. So we're encouraging researchers to use this to kind of just share what they've discovered. And so we have embedded a slideshow of all the images that have been featured. And this one in particular I find really interesting. So this is by Marie and Shaw, and she has shared with us. I don't think Marie and Shaw is here today. If that would be really cool if she was. But she has shared with us a photo that she took in Record Group 302. And it's a picture in DC, and I actually went and I found the series where she said that she pulled it from. This has not been digitized, so she's now made it available. And it's in the series Records Regarding Alleys Considered and Not Considered for Reclamation, 1934 to 1957. And what I've done is I've included a description back to our catalog. So she's really doing something here. She's taken the photo, she's digitized it when she was in our research room, and now she's making it available, and we can provide at least a link to it in this way. The next thing is enter a contest. So in the past year, we've had 3 contests. The first one, the most recent one was Document Your Environment, a student multimedia contest, which is actually run by the social media team, including Mary, who is here at the back. And this was really, really cool. We had students ages 13 and up submit multimedia in a variety of categories, products, and what they've done is we're supposed to take inspiration from the original 1970s Documerica photographs that are in our collection from the APA. And so what we've done is we've shown the winners, actually, were just announced, and you can scroll through them. And this image right here was the grand finalist, and the rest are finalists. Basically, we're looking at contests as a different way of kind of working with the records. So whereas a researcher is going to do something that, I'm researching this particular topic. Contests have a different approach, and they help the public engage in records in kind of new, fun, and creative ways. So the most recent one was our Document Your Environment contest. And then previous ones include I Found It in the National Archives, which encouraged researchers to share their stories of things that they have found in our archives. We actually ran this on Tumblr, and Kristen ran this. She's in the back of the room. The image that's on here is actually from the winning entry that was found in our records, and it's a folk map. More than a World War II folk art map was the winning essay, and that's the folk art map that was part of the essay. And then finally, our first contest, we were really ahead of our time. This is kind of very, it's kind of all over the media right now, and there's even a commercial that features this. But we asked folks to take our images and mash it up with present reality, and it was called History Happens Here, and you can see folks got really creative. It required printing out our photographs and then trying to find exactly where that photograph was taken. And we got some really cool results from that. So that's our contest, and you can stay tuned to see what we do in the future. I don't think we have any on the horizon yet, so we'd love to hear suggestions. And then there's the Citizen Archivist events page, which is brand new. We have the information for today, and if you're staying with us later for the Tagathon, these are the 4 missions that we're going to be working on. And so we've created this just to feature events like this, where you could learn more about what's going on around the Citizen Archivist dashboard and crowdsourcing. We also feature on here our Wikipedia-related events. We've had quite a few Wikipedian events here at the National Archives, so if you're interested in getting involved in that. And then where there were presentations, we've actually gone ahead and embedded the video so you can watch previous lectures and events where we've talked about Citizen Archivists and our crowdsourcing projects. And then our last page is, just want to point out, find an activity by site. So we've developed it so you can kind of cross the dashboard as quickly as possible. You're looking for Flickr, you just click on Flickr and you see, okay, I've got 2 options in Flickr. I can do missions or I can join the Citizen Archivist group. And so we've just kind of done that so you can cross the site in a different way. If you don't want to do it by activity, you want to do it more by site, you're a Wikipedian, you just want to look for the stuff on Wikipedia or Wikisource, you can do that really easily. So I'm going to end with make a suggestion. So we're really in the beginning stages of this. We've thought a lot about this, but we would love to hear more suggestions. So I can take any questions right now. Yes? It's just me and a student who are full-time on the dashboard itself, but really the dashboard represents the work of a lot of other people. So our work on Wikipedia, our work on Flickr, the social media team does a lot of that work. Our work on contests, and so. So 4 permanent people and some additional students who work on that. In addition to our other social media, which is available if you go to archives.gov. I just want to show this. And the connect with us on the bottom left. If you clicked more, you're going to see all of the Web 2.0 social media tools that we use. And we've actually made, in kind of a really open government, transparent way, all of our terms of service that are signed are up online. We have a strategy, policies, frequently asked questions. So it's a really good resource.
We're definitely the hub and spoke model, so public affairs is doing stuff, the folks that work like the archivist and certain people.
And so what you're going to see on these pages is you're going to see, social media around the National Archives. So all of our regional sites, all of our presidential libraries. There's a lot of work of a lot of people. Yes?
You mentioned that everything, I think, is in public domain. How, if you wanted to do, I understand the context is over, but if you wanted to bring up one of the pictures, take that at the place where it was, or other uses, how do you get that public?
Okay, so you have several options. Okay, so I'm gonna click in. So our challenges we've run on challenge.gov, which is a platform for agencies to run contests like this. Trying to look to see. Okay, so the original Documerica photos, you can either go to Flickr or you can go in our online catalog. If you find Flickr to be easy and it's there, we've shared it on Flickr. It's a good resource. You just click on the photo and you can click on sizes and you can download it. You can also do it from our online catalog. And so if we were to do the first one and you wanted to print it, you can actually just click. We have a nice big download this image, and then it's going to pop up into a new screen, and you're getting that image. Any other questions? Yes.
So have you, as a cultural institution, had any challenges from within people saying, maybe the public doesn't know everything, concern about who controls the information that you're putting out? You probably have. So what
Yeah.
is it, and how have you overcome that? Or do you feel like you've overcome that?
I think it's an ongoing process. I think certainly, I've been with the agency almost 4 years, and I feel like the tide has shifted. Maybe not in all camps culturally, but certainly having the archivist as kind of spearheading this and talking about it and being such a huge proponent of it, it is really what's made it happen. And then we can all really work in this new environment and kind of see things as, contributions from the public aren't threatening. They're actually really, really helpful. And if we can get more folks to kind of understand how we can use it and how it's helpful, then people really do see it pretty quickly. Like, oh, this, especially the transcription tool. When people see the transcription tool and they, wow, wait, I can, I've seen people change just kind of even just watching it. Maybe they're coming in, they're kind of a little concerned about putting things out to the public to crowdsource. Also, what helps is to talk about Wikipedia, because we've come a long way with our understanding of Wikipedia. In the early days, people were very concerned about Wikipedia, and we know now that it's the continual edits and people who nothing is static. If it's wrong, it can be changed, and that kind of really seeing that as a good thing, and as maybe even in some cases superior, because we don't know everything about our records. So it's helpful to get the public working on it. We may have historians who come in who have the context that we might not have, or people who have looked through records and they've discovered something that we actually didn't know were in the records. So it's a process, but it is definitely, I feel like the tide has shifted, and we're kind of moving towards this in all areas. Any other questions? Yes. Yeah.
What kind of discussion do you have around the reality of that lots of interesting, valuable information is being generated and held in repositories like Flickr, which you don't control, whose future you can't really guarantee. I know like Flickr Commons, there was uncertainty about that at different
We do, and yeah, all the time. We're thinking about those. We've done a lot of thinking about branding, and what does it mean when our images are on Flickr or other places, and really the benefits have really outweighed any sort of risks. And any of the risks that have been brought up in the past, like what's the public going to do with this record, or is someone going to deface this, or is someone going to use it in a malicious way, those concerns have not so far been realized. They always come up, and then we say, you know what, we haven't really seen it, and then we continue to not see those kinds of problems, concerns that people might have. We see it as really strengthening National Archives by putting our images on Wikimedia Commons, and now people can see it when you're on Wikipedia. If you click the image, our logo is right there. Our links back to our catalog. We really do think that having those links back to the authoritative, our catalog, are really important. We do that on all of our Flickr pictures. So we just kind of try to keep that cohesive, keep it coming back, and kind of thinking forward, what really it requires for bringing any of the information that's generated out there back in is really a discussion about APIs, and we're talking about that a lot. Yes.
Copyright question. You mentioned the photos you put on Flickr had no copyright.
Yes.
Is everything that you put up so far, the documents, the cancel atoms, pictures, things like that, no copyright at this point?
I'm not going to say authoritatively no, but they're not known to us. The things that we have selected to show in the transcription tool and in other spaces, primarily what we do is we take a look at our catalog and see if there's what the use and access restrictions are in our catalog, and then if no known, then we repurpose. That doesn't mean that we don't have stuff that someone might have a valid copyright claim over. We are very receptive to any sort of inquiries. And we have a new email address, copyright@nara.gov, where we're encouraging folks. Actually, I can show you on our transcription. Okay, so this speaks directly to that question. So on our policy page, which I didn't show, second to last bullet point. If you think any of the information on the pilot project is subject to a valid copyright claim, please contact us at copyright@nara.gov. So we do find that some things in our catalog, were unknown to us. Someone still has a valid copyright over, and we are responsive to that. They can grab it and publish it. That's fine. Yeah. So as a federal government agency, we have the unique position that the overwhelming majority of our stuff is not going to have copyright claims because it was produced as a product of the federal government. And so that's why we do so much in the Flickr Commons and on the Wikimedia, Wikimedia Commons, and spaces like that. Any other questions? Yes.
Are you doing any special collaborative efforts with like the Library of Congress or Smithsonian? I don't know whether the digital public library is going to be pulling in any of this stuff, or they're going to be trying similar things.
I can't really speak to the Digital Public Libraries project, but the Archivist of the United States and NARA leadership are very involved in that, and they're in the conversations. So certainly the work that we're doing with the Citizen Archivist Dashboard is informing that process. We are open to any sort of collaboration. We're actually going to, we've been doing demos. We're really brand new. So we launched at the end of December, and we've been doing demos for folks since then, just to kind of get it out there. And you know, we're open if anyone wants to come and collaborate. What's interesting is, you know, we could possibly collaborate to pull out archival records from agencies. So we have like EPA and other agencies where we hold their records. We could, you know, like the Document Your Environment contest was in conjunction with the EPA. So we're looking for ways to do that. Any other questions? Well, thank you very much for coming. And in between this and the Tagathon, we're going to be upstairs, and we can answer questions and show you anything on the devices that we've brought with us. And we've got some handouts and things like that. So thank you so much for coming, and stay around for the Tagathon. Thanks.